Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. The rest of the data about me and about what this video is about can be found down below in the description. But this video today is this. QA expert Daryl Guberman. Correct on the ink not being dry for the Bell V-280 Valor win. Government Accounting Office decides the fate in April of this year. So when I did a video about Lockheed Martin or Lockheed Sikorsky and Boeing winning back that contract, they're going to win it back. You can see it. They just had the presentation at Sikorsky Aircraft of their 5,000th delivery of the Black Hawk helicopter. Who was standing there? Jim Tassett. Okay, Rosa DeLauro, who's been in office too long. That video will be down below this too, where she's been there so long. I hold up her picture and dust flies off of her as she's been there so long. But regardless of that, yes, it does appear, and I'm going to show you in brief, very short, hopefully before less than 10 minutes, that what's going to happen with Bell and the loss of the contract. You have both of them here. You have the Lockheed Sikorsky Boeing Defiant 1 SB. You also have the Bell Valor V-280. And this, they said won, but I am telling you, the ink is not dry. As you heard, the Government Accounting Office, which is very much, don't let anybody kid you, they're a government, they're affiliated with the Department of Defense, and you will see why Bell will ultimately lose this. I'll be very surprised if they win. If they win, very good. Mazel tov. But I don't think so. And I'll show you why. In brief, ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental organization that's been around for over 104 years. Okay, they have federal agencies and corporations on board. In October of this year, I picketed them. The reason why is because in 2019, a Russ Cheney, who was chairman at the time of ANSI, called me up because I did a video concerning an A2LA, which is an accreditation body for laboratory, which is sitting on ANSI's board, right over by the forensic laboratories, many of them, that they certify. Isn't that nice? Isn't that tender? What happened is, I did that. I did the video. A woman who worked for A2LA said, no, ANSI and A2LA are separate entities unto themselves. I did another video showing her exactly what it was. And then I get a call from Russ Cheney, who I didn't know from page 10 that evening, but I got to know him, and this is what he said. That's exactly what he said. Half a nut, fuck you. And I sent a letter off to Joe Battia, the CEO, with the recording. They sent it off to their lawyer, Jameson Carroll of Carroll and Weiss out of Atlanta, Georgia. And he said, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. He didn't hear half a nut, fuck you. I'm sure you did. Oh. Well, what do you want? Lawyers are good with blue smoke and mirrors. I was told, and I've read many times on my videos about a lawyer after 40 years wrote me a note concerning both federal courts and also state courts. And he said, the courtrooms are no more than smoke and mirrors. On top of it, business owners, my fellow citizens, and those prospective business leaders and customers, I have to say this. ANSI and the American Bar Association work hand in hand. On top of it, the Department of Justice sits on ANSI. So if Lockheed takes this to the Department of Justice, they sit right over by the Department of Justice on ANSI, and you'll see that too. So here we go. I'm going to try to get through this verbally. I'm not going to show you that many placards, just enough to let you know the whole sense of why Bell will lose this contract. The ink is not dry. You thought it was a win, Bell? It's not a win until April. So nobody has won that contract, basically, till we find out in April. You have Randy Dodry. Randy Dodry at the time was the vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IF, and also sat on the IF tax report as a principal. He handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu, a communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality since 1994. He is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services that certified the laboratory in Wuhan, China, that more than likely released the virus for COVID and the COVID-19. The reason why I say more than likely is that you have a woman, Pamela Sale, who I did in many videos. You'll find them down below as well. She was the vice president of accreditation for laboratory, and she said under deposition, legal deposition in Texas, she said from one laboratory to another, there are variances. Unbelievable. Now we go back to Daryl Guberman. He is mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take your data. Through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You have ANSI and ANAB took over each other. Well, ANSI took over ANAB in 2018, and you have federal agencies and corporations, only a sample. 2017, Randy Dodry was sitting on the Department of Homeland Security being advertised, a private concern, which was a no-no. I exposed that, and they took him off there. I've showed you that in other videos. In fact, you can find a video on Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, and I go into the whole situation with him because he sits on ANSI, I guess, professing the term half a nut fuck you. Because any company that sits on ANSI, while Russ Cheney, and Russ Cheney said it, half a nut fuck you, I let you hear it, okay? Like Jim Tassett with Lockheed. Is that his quality? It must be. Because after producing 800 aircraft, F-35, they still have quality issues from the different articles that I have read, okay? You have Boeing. Have a nut fuck you, David Calhoun. That's not me talking. That's ANSI. That is the organization that they belong to, okay? You have United Technologies. Have a nut fuck you. You have GE, have a nut fuck you. You have all of these organizations, okay? One of the worst, too, is a lawyer, an Andrew Updegrove. He was rated in 2004 as a super attorney, 2022, a super attorney, yet he stays on the board as a director at large. Unbelievable. Have a nut fuck you. And this is what their mantra and mission statement is. It's not mine. So we go on further. I put in a 54-page document in June of this year, wanting to get as a director at large. They have no representation for the small mom and pop shops to talk to the big OEMs that sit on ANSI's board. They have no representation at all for those people. When I asked for the package to submit my 54-page document, I received a letter from Joe Batia congratulating me on being a nominee for the board, a directorship, okay, director at large. In the context of that letter, there were click links. I clicked them. It goes to the code of conduct. And I said, whoa. Did Russ Cheney read the code of conduct? Or was it half a nut fuck you? Who knows? Probably so. So we're going to continue on here. Needless to say, they did not choose me. I went down there in October. I'm the first person in 104 years to picket them on 1899 Northwest L Street in Washington, D.C. I also went to their building in New York several weeks before I went to Washington, and there's no identifying marks that says that ANSI sits out there or ANSI's down in Washington. An $84 million company, and they can't afford a sign, it appears. Or maybe they knew I was coming, they didn't want to put the sign up. Who knows? I'm the only one that has taken them on in the quality arena. I'm the only one, it appears, that gives a damn about quality because nobody was there with me standing. I was doing it on my own. So, I have to say this, a Thomas Paine poem, as to who I stand for and what I do and why I bring this to light, to Bell as well. I love the man who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, and he whose heart is firm and conscience approves his conduct shall pursue his principles unto death, Thomas Paine. And let's continue on. Now we're going to say this. We have one important person here. We have Mr. Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray from the FBI. I want to show you this, especially to the Bell. You've seen a lot of my videos, I am sure. We're up to almost 2,000 views on one of the videos we put out about the whole Lockheed, Sikorsky, Boeing / Bell issues. And you have Christopher Wray, who on the 15th of November said that TikTok and China are a detriment to our world. In fact, what happened is I think the United States government took TikTok out of our military servicemen and women's phones because Christopher Wray raised the flag of Red China and said this is not good. The sadness about Christopher Wray is that on many of his inquisitions, he says the whole of the Chinese society is a threat to the U.S. and that Americans must step up to defend themselves. I'm not talking about the whole of the Chinese society. I'm talking about their politicians, Chris, just like you. Unbelievable. Well, let me just show you this. Christopher Wray, okay? Christopher Wray's FBI sits on ANSI. They were sitting there between 2015 and 2021. The FBI has gotten their data taken by China, no less. And it's absolutely disgusting. On top of that, in 2016, they signed a contract with ANAP for, I guess, their forensic labs. It's right here. So here they are, very much immersed in communist China. You also have the Department of Transportation on board. It gets better. You have the Federal Aviation on board. Okay, and Federal Aviation, who, let me just say this, in 2009, they seceded inspection to Boeing. Go ahead, Boeing. This is what they basically did. Go ahead, Boeing. Design it, build it, fly it. For the 737 MAX, they probably have done the same thing for the 777 and 787. And now they're trying to backpedal themselves. If you read many articles, we are getting tighter in rejections for Boeing. Well, let me just tell you too. Boeing was caught by the FAA fudging documentation on their aircraft. Do you think some of the metals are still flying around? Of course they are. Them and Kobe Steel, all quality certified by ANSI, ANAP, and IAF MLAs that sit on the IAF. An IAF MLA, a multilateral arrangement or multilateral regional accreditation body, is equivalent in accreditation to ANAP. Also, ANSI, ANAP. Also, ANSI and ANAP are underwriters for any IAF MLAs that sit on the IAF because they are equivalent to accreditation as ANSI, ANAP. And you have the FAA on board. Another item is that you have both Boeing, Lockheed, federal agencies, and corporations that sit on board of both ANSI, and they've been watched over and controlled over by Communist China by their affiliation with ANSI, ANAP from 2015 to 2021. Here goes the sticking point. You have the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice sits there. And I'm going to say this too. You have the Federal Aviation Administration. You have all of these different organizations. You have Boeing. You have Lockheed sitting on board. In fact, as I showed you, here it is, Boeing and Lockheed. And the thing that I'm telling you again and again, and this is again about QA expert Daryl Guberman, correct on ink, not dry, on Bell V-280 win. The Government Accounting Office decides fate in April, so nobody has won that contract yet, per the Government Accounting Office. And you have the Department of Defense on board. These are the guys who sign off the appropriations for the replacement Black Hawk. Bell is nowhere to be found on ANSI's board, and I'm quite proud that they're not, because they too would be in this video being controlled and manipulated by Communist China. There is one issue, if I have it here, I don't know if I do at the present, but you have NQA registrars, which certify one of Bell's branches, and NQA also sits on ANSI's board, and they sat there between 2015 and 2021, being controlled and manipulated by Communist China. Maybe, just maybe, that is where they got all the data from, as far as the variants. Maybe both aircraft have been copied by the Chinese. Their documents taken. And It's absolutely horrendous what is going on with our military contractors. I'm going to stop here. I think that's enough information. You'll find the rest of the data down below. If you have any questions, please contact me at 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS, @yahoo.com. And let me just give you a for instance as to what Lockheed and Boeing, per Russ Cheney, okay, they sit on the board. So Russ Cheney is the mouthpiece for all those corporations and federal agencies that sit on there. So let me play it for you again. And this way, this is what ANSI and ANAB dispense as their quality. Okay? And here it is.
This is Russ Cheney. Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as possible. Record your...
Yes, he did say that. And you have ANSI, who is really in the trash now. And those organizations, those corporations and federal agencies that sit on there, I guess Russ Cheney, when he called me up and he left that message, he was letting me in on a secret that every time they dispense a quality certificate, no matter what their registrar is, whatever the registrar is that has the ANAB logo, they've got 7 registrars that sit on ANSI, okay, that put their ANAB logo on it. So if you don't think that's the fox washing the hen house, I don't know what is. But if their quality improved, it hasn't. That's the shame. So no matter how much they press and push on this quality certification deal, number one, the registrars don't support their customers. They go in, do an audit, and many times they will get you for management review, calibration, and internal audits. Those are the 3 majors that they will come out with because those are the easiest ones for you to get corrective actions on. I'm sure you've seen that. And if you've experienced that, please write your experiences down below this video. Again, 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS, @yahoo.com. I thank you. And the reason, again, why I do this is because I made the prediction that Lockheed, Sikorsky, and Boeing will take that contract away from Bell. After all, nobody's won yet until April.